Hello, Brooke. You might be muted.
Oh man, the whole intro is messed up, man.
That's like a start of COVID kind of a kind of. I do that here just a sec. I'll do it too.
Oh man, I messed the whole thing up.
Yeah.
But can you tell my listeners a little bit about yourself and the types of books you write?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm Brad. Uh, I I'm here, I guess, as a writer. I write science fiction books. I've also written some nonfiction books as well. I guess that's what I do by night. By day, I'm a university prof. I lure people to the dark side in the School of Business at a local university up here. Yeah, and let's say the stories that I write tend to be sci-fi. At least the long novels tend to be sci-fi. Short stories, I do a bunch of short stories. They kind of run the gamut all over everything. So that's kind of what I do to keep me busy.
Oh, nice. So can you tell us a little bit about your book? I'm going to bring it on stage while we talk about it. Can you tell
Sure.
us a little bit about your book?
You betcha. That's what it looks like right there. It's called Duatero. So it's that book takes place on an abandoned colony. So thousands of years ago, humans colonized this planet, but then they lost contact with Earth. And they've been kind of struggling to survive over the last couple of thousand years, just clinging to survival as they try to make their home on this world that is not really suited for them. And things start to, so that's how the story starts. As the story starts, things are starting to change. A lot of their equipment and tools that they've been using are starting to break down. There's changes in the natural, plants and animals that's making them more dangerous. So something is happening, and basically the colony is kind of at the point where it's like, is this it? Are we struggling? Is this it? Is it the end of the game? And there is a cast of people. There's it's almost become a little bit of a religious order over the years of people whose job it is to protect the colony from the natural flora and fauna. To try to keep the colony safe. And yeah, what they've done for thousands of years isn't working anymore. And yeah, that's kind of where we start. The main character's name is Credo, and it's his job to try to figure out what's going on and hope for the best.
Wow, how did you develop this storyline in these characters?
It's funny. I don't know if funny, but two things inspired the story. One was a Rob Zombie music video, which of course inspires all great literature. The other was it's debates that I've had, with some cousins and some family members and stuff like that. This was like a long time ago, probably like around 2010 or so. But so whatever political bent you are, I'm like, okay, I think climate change is real, and I have a cousin who thinks like, nope, climate change is not real. And we would have a lot of debates all the time. And one of the things that kind of struck me through those debates, like one is, we kind of create these bubbles of knowledge that we live in, right? We create these bubbles of knowledge that we live in, and it really informs what we see, what we think is real, what reality is, and informs the decisions that we make. And I think there's something to be said about having a little bit of humbleness. Like, is what I'm perceiving actually reality? Recognizing that there are these little knowledge bubbles, and I wanted to create a story that kind of explored that. And so, yeah, that's these characters. This it has become a quasi religious order. They've been doing the same thing for thousands of years, and it's been working for thousands of years, and now suddenly things are changing and they have to adapt, and it kind of puts into conflict this belief system that they have that just doesn't seem to be working anymore. And what do you do? Do you double that? What I tend to see people do, and what I try to express in the book, is that there are some people who are like a little bit more experimental and innovative, and they're like, let's try something new. And then there are people that like, no, now is not the time to try something new because our life's in danger. We need to double down and do what's always worked.
Mhm.
I tried to create characters that had that tension in it between doubling down and doing what's always worked versus trying something new. Um, so that's kind of where it came from. The other is like Rob Zombie music video where I can't remember I can't remember the song, but I'm not even sure if this is true anymore. It's, memory is funny, but I have this memory. It was like an animated one. There's this witch hunter hunting witches, and they're like all these ugly old crones, and then and then as they're burning, like all of a sudden, like they appear young and youthful, what it made me think of is like, is the truth that they're these ugly old crones, or is it
Mhm.
just that's what he sees and it kind of hides the truth that they're just these young women, right? So those, yeah, around the times I was having that debate with my cousin, I saw that music video and I was like, I got a story about that.
That's pretty cool. So about the characters itself,
Yeah.
did you relate to any of the characters, or like they based on any of your people that you know or
That's a fun
met? Or
Yeah, it's like, nah, that's a fun question. It's always a fun question because like they came out of my head, so there must be aspects of them in there somewhere. Um, I really tried to write them around, I guess, like the characters embodied, the themes that I was exploring, right? And so I wouldn't necessarily. Well, okay, so there are some characters who are like, I hope I'm that person. If this ever happens to me, I hope I'm that person in real life. But yeah, so the main character Credo, I mean, he's established his career. So like the name Credo means belief, right? So I wanted him to, symbolism there. I wanted him to embody this belief system and this reliance on, just faith and tradition. The other character who's kind of, I wouldn't say is foil, but turns out, it's the tension between them throughout the story. Her name is Esperanta, which means hope. And again, symbolism there. She was very much more the innovator, like, well, let's study this, let's try to understand, things are changing, so let's try to understand it, and then try to, experiment our way forward with this, right? That's really where she came from. So I created those two main characters just as they're vehicles for the theme, I guess, if you will. And then I had some other characters. There was a character, Talia, who's a bucket of fun to write. She's just sort of a fun, free spirit, and she's kind of the connection. She's what grounds Credo. She's what grounds him to humanity. Otherwise, he's just all business. And then there's this other guy, Jack, who's kind of he's a follower, and he sees he's ambitious as well. He's a follower, he's ambitious, and he's like, what, if in the status quo here, if I play the game in the status quo, I can achieve, I can climb the ladder, right? He's sort of looking more for himself than anything else. So I kind of had those four characters. Those are the main characters. Those first two ones there were sort of the opposition, the source of tension, and then other ones just kind of fleshed things out a little bit. One person was just there for fun, just having fun, kind of grounding, sort of the voice of humanity. The other guy was all ambition. So yeah, I don't know. I think you see all those things in the world, right? So I wanted to try to have characters that embodied them and put them all into tension and dialogue and have some fun with that.
Ooh, I'm gonna add this book to my to be read list because it sounds interesting.
I hope, yeah. I hope people seem to like it. I hope you like it. I think it's. I enjoy it. I'm biased. I enjoyed it. I like it. I like it.
So, what was your hardest scene to write, and why?
Okay. There's hard. There's like there's different definitions of hard. That's a good question. Okay, give me a second here. I'm sure I can think of something good.
Because I know a lot of people do research when they write their books. So
yeah, so I did a crap ton of research here, but like the hard part was is near the end, and I don't want to like do spoilers and stuff like that. So okay, so let me think if I can explain this with it's the non-spoiler free version is that you create this tension and this conflict, and then how do you resolve it at the end? Like how do you kind of bring things together in a way that seems organic? And I probably fiddled with the ending a lot to try to get that right. And I had some fantastic editors. That be like, no, that's I don't know. They're like, no, that's not it. And they bounced ideas around with me and stuff like that. So yeah, that is probably that. It's probably that at the end. Like I created this great story, this great tension, this great conflict, and then how do you kind of bring things together in a way that seems organic, that seems realistic? I had a tough time with that, and I had to rewrite the last quarter of the book a couple of different ways as I was getting feedback from editors and things like that. So that was a bit of a process. But thank you to all my wonderful editors with that. Her name is Adria Laycraft. She's an amazing editor. There you go. Free plug for her. But yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. Wow.
Yeah, there you go. I was actually like the original, and like my original ending was like horrendously dark, and my editor was like, "This is too dark. Like this is like I don't know. You gotta lighten this up somehow. Like it's too much." And I was like, "Okay, thanks. That's good advice."
Did it end on a cliffhanger, or did it end like to where that's the end of the story?
So it's funny. I wrote it as the story ends, and I find the way that I end stories is like the main issue is resolved, but of course there's always like life carries on, right? Like there's always there's always more, right? But the main issue is resolved. So I actually wrote this story as a one-off, like the story's done. There have but that being said, there is the little what happens next, right? What's going on next, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people assume that there is a sequel. I'm like, yes, what are you talking about, a sequel? I finished it, like it's done. But they're like, no, you have that little thing at the end. I'm like, well, no, that's I don't know. So yeah, it is just it's just sort of a one and done thing there. But it does end on a hopeful note. That's what you were asking. There is a little bit of ambiguity, so it ends with some ambiguity, but a hopeful. I think I struck a good balance between ambiguity with there's hope. That's what I struck.
Nice.
That's what I tried to do, and I think I did all right with that.
So, can you tell my listeners a little bit about the title? How did the title form?
So, all right. So there's probably like 1 in a million people that will recognize that as the language Esperanto. And so for those of you who don't know, Esperanto is an artificial language. It was like all languages are invented, but this one was like designed on purpose. It was at the end of World War I. People had just lived through World War. They're like, "Whoa, man, we need to find a way to get people to come back together. We're going to create a global language." And so they created this language called Esperanto, which of course went nowhere, but this language exists. And so when I was writing the book, I wanted, because so that's Esperanto. It means second Earth. Dua means second. Tero means Earth. So second Earth. That's the name of the planet. The planet is second Earth. It's a colony, right? But the idea was that there had been this colony was thousands of years old, and I wanted to create these layers of history just within everything, right? And so the very earliest cities, the very earliest things that were named either in English or Mandarin, because I figured like, oh, those would be the nations that go off into the world. So I figured, English or Mandarin. So like you'll see city names that, oh, that's kind of an English name, and that sort of seems like a Chinese name. But then over time, as they lost contact with Earth and they started to evolve on themselves, their language evolved. And so some of the more newer stuff, that's where I kind of layered in Esperanto. And the reason why I used Esperanto, because I wanted, I'm not a linguist. I'm no J.R.R. Tolkien. I can't create a language. can't create a language for a story. But I wanted something that sort of seemed like a language that nobody knew about. Like I wanted to use something that was totally unfamiliar to people. And I was like, Esperanto. I bet you I'm the only guy in like 500 kilometers that knows that exists. So, and we live in the world of the internet. There's like, if you search, you can find Esperanto dictionaries. Google Translate has Esperanto on it. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, Duatero, second Earth, and you'll see a bunch of other words that are made up, but they're not made up. They're actually Esperanto.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, do you have any upcoming books or stories?
I do. I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy to say it took a while. I had to. Publishing is hard. But, it took a while, but I do have a book coming out at the end of 2020. So either the end of 2024 or early 2025, called Ashmi's Song, which is another sci-fi, totally different world, totally different everything, totally different story, different characters. Yeah, that's coming out. That's coming out at the end of the year, which I'm looking forward to.
Nice. I know you can't share too much, but what can you share?
Yeah. All right. All right. So one of the things you'll learn is that I'm bad at elevator pitches. I can't. So again, this takes place on another world. And the main character. Okay, so the theme I wanted to explore with that one here. Let me tell you about the theme, and then the story. So way back in like 2014, 2015, 2016. When all these Assyrian refugees from Syria were flooding Europe and the world and stuff like that, I remember that in the right-wing news, there's all this like look at all these young men, coming here to our country. They should be back home fighting for their country. And I was always like, I think the problem with their country is they have too many people trying to fight for their country. Like maybe a little less is in order. And it kind of made me think, what is heroism? Like is a hero the person that stays and fights for their country, or is the hero the person like grabs their family and books on out of there and tries to find a place of safety for their family, right? And so I wanted to create a story with that theme, right? And so this story here, Ashmi's Song, the main character is Ashmi, and she is a young woman, and she has a brother who is a dependent on her. He has some challenges, some developmental challenges, and so he's dependent on her. But she yearns to be part of this revolution that's starting to take place within the country that she lives in. So she wants to be this hero like her dad. Her dad fought in the war years ago, and she wants to be a hero like her dad. But she feels like she kind of has to look after her brother, and so she has that tension, right? She kind of like to just leave her brother with maybe her cousin, or just wish she wasn't there, so that she can go off to be a hero. And yeah, through that sort of exploring, what is being a hero? Like, is the hero just picking up arms and shooting people, or is it looking after your family and doing what you need to do to keep them safe? So I don't know if that explains that's kind of what it's about. How's that? Does that make sense? Does that sound like a story?
Yeah, it sounds like a really good story. And that comes out at the end of this year?
That is correct. Yeah. There was a little bit of the publisher was like, yeah, end of 2024, early 2025, something around there. So I'm fingers crossed. It'd be nice if it was in the fall, but we'll see how their publishing schedule goes.
Do you already have like the cover for it and all?
No, we got nothing. We got no cover for it yet. Just like a blank. Yeah. No cover art for it yet. So there we go. Imagine something dramatic right there. Yes.
Well, I've linked your website on here. I'm gonna share a little bit about your website.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Whenever. Okay. Is there anything else you want to share with my listeners before I let you go?
Oh, I guess those are the big main things. I got some. Oh yeah. I got a short story hopefully coming out in the near. So the publishing company that I'm working with, Shadowpaw Press is their name. They're going to be doing a Kickstarter for a short story anthology coming out. I think it's going to be starting in the spring. So Kickstarter for a short story anthology. If we get enough money to start that short story anthology, I'll get a short story in it. So so there you go. Plug for the upcoming Kickstarter for Shadowpaw Press to get a short story. It's a short sci-fi short story. So if that's your jam, look up Shadowpaw Press. shadowpawpress.com. Keep your eyes peeled there. They'll have some announcements whenever that Kickstarter's happening. And yeah, there you go. That's good stuff. That's the good stuff.
Nice. So I want to thank you so much, Brad, for coming on my podcast today and chatting with me.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You have a great day.
You betcha. Cheers.
Bye. Hey, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for listening to She-Births podcast. I am grateful for my supporters. At the beginning of my podcast, I was on mute, so I didn't get to really do my intro. But yes, it was just introducing Brad and who he was. And so I want to share a little bit on his website before I let you all go. His website is bradanderson2000.com, and you can purchase his book through right here. Click here to buy, and you can purchase his book. You can also subscribe to his website and see what books he has coming out and short story he has coming out. And I want to thank you all so much for listening, and thank you all so much for such the great support that you all been giving me. See you next time. Bye.